Hello everyone, this is Professor Sexton with an extremely short video on revising and editing. I know that the course syllabus doesn't say that there is a video lecture for these two documents, but I decided to add one anyway. When you go into course documents, you'll see two documents there. One is a short document on revising, and another one is a short document on editing. The only reason that I'm going over this is that you will soon be receiving your graded first papers back. And keep in mind that with some of the papers in this course, you can revise those grades for a higher grade if you're not satisfied with the grade that the paper originally received. But in order to help you make the best decisions when it comes to revising and editing, I just wanted to share a few tips about the process here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share the document on revising that you should be able to see in a moment. Okay, it's coming up. And as you see, it is an extremely short document. So there is a slight difference between revising and editing. With revising, you're working on the process of improving your ideas, concepts, and the organization of the paper. And so that's really what revising is. So it's more about the content, organizations, and things of that nature. Editing deals with sentence level issues like grammar and spelling. And when we get to the other document, we'll go over that. So with revisions, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your paper fully addresses the assignment. So go back and look at what the assignment asks you to do and make sure that that is what your paper is doing. Address any of my comments about content, ideas, or organization. So when you receive your graded papers back, you'll find two types of comments. There are textual comments that are in the body of the text, and then there's a comment at the very end of the paper. What you want to do is you want to look at both of my comments, the textual content, the textual comments, and also the end ones. And so when you're in the process of revising, you want to make sure that you address those issues that I raised. So if there are issues about that, the content needs to be stronger or the organization needs to be edited or something of that nature, those are the things that you'll want to pay attention to. Also, when you're revising, it's also very important to look at your thesis again. And I am of the belief that the thesis is not so much important for your reader as it is for you, because your thesis tells you what your paper is going to be about. And if you know clearly what it is that your central argument is going to be, that helps you to write a stronger body paragraphs, because that way you're making sure that you're supporting that argument. You want to check the content of your paragraphs to make sure that they're supporting your thesis statement. So if, for instance, if you're writing about the poem Robert Browning's My Last Duchess, and you're writing about the Duke's personality, you want to make sure that all your body paragraphs are talking about the Duke's personality. If you bring up something that's unrelated to the Duke's personality, either that doesn't need to be there, or you need to structure that argument in such a way that whatever else that you're talking about is a reflection of the Duke's personality. Like, for instance, if you're saying that the way that the Duke treats his wife is a result of his personality, then there's a connection there. So you want to make sure that that works. Make sure that your paper is balanced, cutting parts that are irrelevant to your thesis, expand sections that are important to it. Also, make sure that the organization is strong, that when you have the body paragraphs, that one point transitions nicely to the next point, and make sure that all those body paragraphs are working well to prove your thesis statement, the main focus of your paper. You also want to check your topic sentences. So each body paragraph should have a topic sentence. And that topic sentence just lets you know what that paragraph is about. And it functions the same way as the thesis statement does. So if you want to argue in the paper that the Duke is a jealous man, that's the topic sentence of one of your body paragraphs. Everything in that body paragraph needs to be related to how you're emphasizing his jealousy, and any textual evidence that you give will support that. With revising your paper, it's always best to read the paper out loud. Reading your paper out loud will allow you to hear it, and you'll be able to catch things that you may not have caught if you were just reading it to yourself. Such as confusing sentences or whether your argument makes sense. Also, in terms of revising, read your introduction and conclusion together. So read the introduction, skip the body paragraphs, and read the conclusions. And look and see if there's a connection between your introduction and your conclusion. So the introduction is what you state that your paper is going to be about. When you get to the conclusion, make sure that you're still dealing with that same issue. And that way it shows a connection between the paper and gives the paper a sense of unity. So these are the things that you want to use when you're considering revisions. But the most important thing that I want you to remember about revision is more about content and organization. The other one, editing, which is a document that I'm about to share with you now, editing is more about the grammatical and spelling mistakes of it. And just think of editing as proofreading. So this is when you go back over your paper and you just read through it to find sentence level concerns, such as if there's comma splices or sentence fragments or words that are not sentences that are not clearly constructed and do not clearly convey what it is that you intend. Um, and so these are the things that you're looking for. Make sure that you're familiar with the convictions that your person wants in the work. Like, for instance, stylistic requirements. For instance, it's usually best not to use I in a literary paper, and you want to try to avoid that if you can. And one of the reasons why is that when you use I, there's two things that happens. You tend to overuse I, and also it gives the impression that this is just your interpretation, your reading of the work. And part of the thing about a literary paper is you want everyone who reads that work to kind of see it the same way. So if you can avoid using I, the paper tends to be a little bit stronger. So try to do that as well when you're considering editing. Editing is when you correct spelling errors, and typos. Be careful with spell check. Spell check is good, but sometimes, for instance, like the word could, which is spelled could, if you leave out you get the word cold. And cold may not be the word that you want, but spell check is not going to pick up the distinction between those two because they're both spelled correctly. So you do want to make sure that you have the words that you want. Check any grammar and punctuation. Check your sentence structures and make sure that your sentences are concise and they convey what it is that you intend. And once again, just like revising, it might be in your best interest to read your paper out loud, because in reading it out loud, you can often hear those mistakes that you will probably skim over if you're just reading it silently to yourself. Also, for a literary paper, make sure that your quotations are used correctly. There's a document in our Blackboard course on using quotations about how to do that, either by introducing them or integrating them. Also about how to do parenthetical citations. So you want to make sure that all of that is correct as well when you're editing. A few other things that you need to do in terms of editing: know your trouble spots. If you know, for instance, that you tend to write a lot of fragments, then that's what you want to look at when you're editing. Or if you often use the wrong verb tense, you want to pay attention to those things. So that way you can focus on those things that are often your trouble spot. As I've already said, it's really good advice to read your paper out loud. Another good thing is if there's someone that some member of their household or friend who can read the paper out loud to you, that'd be great too, because sometimes hearing someone else read the paper, they're not going to fill in things that are not there. And then also to hear someone else read your work, you'll hear someone say, oh, that's not what I meant. So if you can get someone else to read it out loud, that's great. As I said before, that may not be an option, but if you can, It'll work really well. And then the last thing too is to print a copy of your paper. I know for this course, you are writing your papers, composing them online using Microsoft Word or some other kind of document, online document format, thing like that. But sometimes seeing it in a different format will also give you a new perspective on it. Um, and then look for word problems, especially with literary papers, because you're writing in present tense, which is not something that we often do. So that's usually a thing that you need to wrap your head around. And then check for your citations as well. So that's it in terms of revising and editing. I mean, I know these two documents make it seem a little bit more simpler than it is, but the best thing to do is, like I said, when you get your paper back, look at the textual comments that I make and look at the ending comments that I made, and just make sure that you're addressing those issues. When you get your papers back, if there's anything that I've marked that is unclear to you or needs further explanation, just send me an email and it's like, hey, Professor Sexton, can you explain a little bit more detail what this means? Or if you need to arrange to meet with me over Zoom and we can bring up your paper and discuss it that way. So I hope that this is helpful. And as I said before, you want to also read those two documents on editing and revising for yourself. All right, take care. See you later. Bye.